Hey there, I'm Nadia Nash and thank you for joining us here at the Asian Le Mans Series. And we have had 3 amazing rounds of endurance racing and we finally made our way here to Malaysia for the finale. And once again, Sepang International Circuit will be hosting the event. Now we've had a great season, but of course, what's coming up next is going to be even greater. Some exciting changes are in the line. And we've got just a man, Graham Goodwin, here with us to be talking more about that. Now, Graham, 2019-2020 calendar was just announced a couple of days back. And we're returning to China once again. But after that, where are we going?
Well, after that, it gets very different indeed. We've got a longer gap than usual, then a bit, actually quite compressed 3-race schedule after Christmas with the Bend in South Australia, 7.7 kilometre track. Fantastic new facility, the first international series to see that. I think that's going to become a big part of sports car racing in the future. Then we move into February, back here to wonderful Sepang International Circuit, but very different. Instead of starting in the middle of the day, we'll be starting towards the evening with 2 hours of the 4-hour race in full darkness under the lights here. The cars will look and sound spectacular. And then finishing the series in Buriram in Thailand. That race moving from its January date to be the season closer in Thailand.
So everything's just jumbled up for a good reason, I guess. But I want to know, a night race here in Sepang, how different is that going to be for the drivers?
It'll be a bit cooler for starters. It's really, really warm out here. For European taste, it's sweltering, well over 30 degrees here, and it's getting hotter and hotter. So they're going to get rather cooler temperatures, but that is the aspect of this program. That and the addition of the Bend is the thing that the drivers are really very excited about. These guys are on the pyramid towards the Le Mans 24 hours. There, we race for quite a long time in the dark. This is a nice step towards that.
Exactly. We are all eager to know what's going to happen next season. But right now, back to the business at hand. We've got qualifying sessions, kicking off with GT first, then LMP2 and LMP3. So we can't wait for that to start. And you are going to be up in the commentary box together with Jeevan Salvanathan, of course. Jeevan, how are things looking from your end?
Hi Nadia, how are you doing? Great to see you, and great to see Graham, of course, up here at the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia. My name is Jeevan Salvanathan. I'll be with Graham for not just the qualifying session you're about to watch, but also race day tomorrow. And as Nadia and Graham were just saying, as you can just see in the side of your screen, about 16 minutes to go till that qualifying session. It is one of the most significant, if not the most significant qualifying session that has probably been set up in all of the Asian Le Mans Series history, because a lot could be decided not just in this session for the race tomorrow, but actually there could be a title that actually comes out today. So we'll be talking about all the permutations and everything that happens a little bit later on. Right now, of course, you can just soak up some of the scenes of the Sepang International Circuit. It's been 6 years now that the Asian Le Mans Series has been coming up to this wonderful FIA Grade 1 circuit. This, of course, the 4th FIA Grade 1 circuit for this season. And each of the circuits, first it started in Shanghai in November, and then of course to Fuji, which we've been to before last year, and then Buriram as well. Each of those circuits posed a different test. Pretty much any class that comes up to race here, and there's literally racing all year round, whether it's touring cars or you get up to the big boys, which is F1 and the Asian Le Mans Series. Now, when it comes down to it, as I said, it has elevation, it has gradient. We'll be talking a lot more about exactly what this is going to pose, but the main threat up here at Sepang for any driver is, of course, as you can see with the bright sun up there, the heat. It's about 35 degrees right now, and that's what it was just now. And when it comes down to it, as you can see with the bright sky and the clouds, there isn't much humidity in here at all. Now, of course, Graham, thanks for joining us in the commentary box. Good to see you down there in the pit lane.
Absolutely.
Looking very hot.
There are three things I don't do, similar between me and the Majesty of the Queen. We're both very British. Neither of us carry cash. That's because I've got none. And we don't run in public.
As you can tell, it's going to be another scintillating weekend up here in the commentary box. But Graham, when it comes down to it, I said four circuits. We've had a lot of action that has come through, and looking at this is next year. How exciting is this going to be, starting off in Shanghai?
Absolutely. Back to Shanghai in mid to late November. Then we have this longer gap. The Bend in South Australia is going to be amazing. The longest permanent circuit aside from the Nordschleife, the Nürburgring. Then those two back-to-back races in February here at Sepang. But remember, the twist there is it's going to be half of the full race will be in full darkness. And we finish the season not here in Malaysia, but, well, relatively speaking, up the road in Thailand at the Buriram Chang International Circuit. Looking forward to that one as well. It's going to be a different look and feel to the season, but actually this is a calendar that's got the tongues wagging down in the paddock, without a shadow of a doubt.
So really, when you're looking at those circuits, some of the drivers have already had a lot of experience with them, but it really is this second entrant, the Bend at Australia. It's the brand new circuit in Australia.
It is, and it could unlock a whole new audience, both public audience like you guys watching us right now, and you're more than welcome, but also competing audience, people from Australia where they've got a very strong national motorsport scene, but what they're looking for is to internationalise that. This is the Bend. This is fantastic aerial footage of the fabulous new facility in South Australia. This during the construction phase, but now completes 7.7 kilometres. The main endurance circuit, seldom used and certainly not used for any kind of international series. The Asian Le Mans Series, therefore, will have the privilege of kicking off that history. And we'll have the privilege as well of setting some real benchmarks in terms of fast lap times here. Remember, 2019-2020 season will see the debut in the Asian Le Mans Series of the current international brand of LMP2 cars, 100 horsepower more than the already very quick cars we're going to be seeing. Let's go and talk to down to the pit lane in just a moment, I think, to one of the LMP3.
That's right. We have to start getting to some of these huge stories, and the Inter-Europol team are going to be in contention this weekend to pick up the LMP3 title. And the two drivers there, Kuba Shimosky and Martin Hipper, have delivered at every turn, but they've actually only won one of the races so far.
But only they've never finished off the podium. Let's go down to speak to Martin Hipper now, who's with Nadia Nash in pit lane.
Yes, with Martin Hipper, always with a smile. Thank you so much for having us. You told me just now Kuba will be getting into the car. Let's talk about qualifying today.
Yeah, Kuba will do the qualifying for us. That's a typical way we do it, even in the European series, and that worked out quite well up to now, and so we keep to this plan.
Right. Yeah, why change it if the recipe has been working, right? And you guys are leading P3 right now, but the gap is not huge. So what's the strategy going on for this round, the finale?
The strategy should be win the race and also the qualifying, but it will be a tough race tomorrow, 4 hours under these conditions, but we're quite confident for a long distance pace, and I think that should be a good race tomorrow.
And the fact that you guys are only a two-man team, so, switching around, you don't have too much options, and you were talking about the conditions, it gets too hot.
Yeah, the conditions are challenging for us because we have to do 2 hours each, but it gives us some room for the strategy with two drivers.
I like that. I shall not ask you what that strategy is, of course, but all the best for today and tomorrow. That was Martin Hipper from Inter-Europol.
Well, that was great to hear from Martin Hipper. And maybe that's where we should start with LMP3, because of the four classes, LMP2, LMP2M, LMP3, and GT, that's probably the closest one. All four, by the way, well, all three, actually three, barring a mathematical chance for GT, which we'll get into in a second. But for Inter-Europol, 62 points ahead of this double team of United Autosports, the number 2, number 3 car, 54 and 43. Where do you see that going? Because just that win for Shanghai for Inter-Europol.
Fascinating, because Inter-Europol's team told me they felt they'd overperformed in Shanghai. It didn't look like that. They've had a win and 2 second places out of 3 races so far. Fantastic stuff from them. United Autosports are hungry. They have 2 very good driver squads. They had a bit of bad luck in the second free practice session, but that car is ready to go after a bit of a shunt for Jim Maguire. That car's fine. Jim is absolutely fine. But before we get into this race, let's go and have a look back at the highlights from Buriram last time out. Well, it was blisteringly hot for the start, 31 degrees, and it just got hotter. Waited till the lights went out. We're looking to see what Phil Hansen could do. Didn't expect that Ate de Jong would defend as he did. That allowed the second Algarve Pro car to come through and gave Phil Hansen some things to worry about to start with. It got busy behind them through turn 1, then later again at turn 3. Amongst the real stars at the start of the race, Tianchi Racing ran 1-2 with their gentleman drivers in the Audi R8s. Later in the race, though, brake failure for Johnny Molam, and later still in the race, a string of 2 penalties for the car guy, the 11 Ferrari, that saw their lead hard won by James Collado. Collado's pace was stellar. Car guy take another win. Right at the end too, we saw problems for Kai van Berlo. He lost a podium position to Colin Noble, who in turn then suffered problems and was under threat right to the flag from his own teammates. The 13 crew leading the championship were battling at every turn to see what they could do in a race-long battle with the number 2 United Autosports crew. That was Christian Olsen, by the way, on the inside, taking back the lap from the leading pair, but the number 2 car near faultless from them. They took the lead from the Inter-Europol car and maintained it to the end. It was them, then the Polish team. This was one of the moments of the race, though, that possibly robbed us of a fighting finish. The 24 car in the hands of Andrea Pizzatola hitting the GT leader. 23 car fell out of contention for the LMP2 and battle with time in the garage. Darren Burke forced his way up into 3rd position overall. Let that go as the 35 car up the inside here to take 3rd position overall as a problem as yet undiscovered by us. Hit the number 4 car, but Darren Burke did enough to bring back the win in LMP2 AM. Very late final splash of fuel for the 22 was not enough to make that anything other than a convincing, dominant win from the 22 squad. It was certainly Paul Di Resta with a single stint, but absolutely Phil Hansen, the star of the race here, in terms of the pace that he brought through to the checkered flag. A day to remember at Buriram in Thailand. Double win. That'll be the headline of the press release that hits your inboxes if you want the mailing list.
That was the highlights from Buriram. What a great race that was. But here we're at Sepang, of course, at the Panis Bartes garage. With us, we've got Matthew Leahy. So, qualifying sessions today. Are you going to be the one getting into the car? If not, who is?
Yeah, I will drive for the qualifying session.
So just a few minutes away, we're taking a bit of your time from getting into the car. How are you feeling? What's going on in your head?
So far, so good. The car is really good. We managed to find a good setup for this track. It was a new track for the team, new track for all the drivers. So not so easy to learn this track, but very challenging and beautiful track with very, very warm weather. So we will see in qualifying, but we are not in so bad position.
I like how you played it down there, very, very warm weather. But yes, then tomorrow is a big race day. How is the team looking for that? Any strategy?
Like we said, the biggest difficulties will be the weather, because it's very warm, and maybe it will be difficult for us to stay in the car 2 hours and to manage to keep the tire during the stint. So we work on different strategy. Maybe we will change the driver at every stint or not. We will see tomorrow, because we didn't manage to do so many long stints during the practice session. So we didn't know exactly where we are.
It's a matter of getting used to the weather also, right? So, yep, seems like the hot weather is going to be a challenge for most of the drivers. Back to you guys at the commentary.
Thanks for that, Nadia. Panis Bartes competition. Graham, they have been steadily increasing throughout the season. They haven't got a win yet, but could this be a weekend for them?
It could be. I think the heat is going to be a major factor in every regard in this race. That's a team of drivers. Mathieu Lehay knows his stuff to do with LMP2, but he's a man that knows his way around that. But 2 teammates that are less experienced.
Now, this is, of course, what they're going to be facing. 5.543 kilometers, 15 turns. That's 5 rights and 10 10 lefts, and then, as you can see, that it's that choke point into turn one that is the big news, really, because you've got a whole stream of cars coming through there. But then after that, Graham, it gets very fast.
It does indeed. It opens out dramatically. Some very quick corners here, some technical stuff as well, as you say. We've seen some real dramas at that turn one, turn two complex, the start of the lap. And at the very start of the race, just 2 seasons ago, it settled
Yes,
the championship.
that's right.
Could it do so again?
Now, that's just one of the things that can happen, of course. And as we know, it's actually been the case that over the Sepang has been the finale race for 6 years now, but the last 3 years, as you said, has seen some very, very interesting championship-changing moments happening here.
It most certainly has, and we can see there 33 degrees, and just a breath of wind and 55% of humidity. It's a very different feel to the climate here for anybody coming across from Europe, and there's a lot of the European teams here on this grid. They are going to be very challenged indeed in the race day tomorrow. Less so, of course, with the quickfire qualifying sessions, but yet when we get into the race tomorrow, we're going to be looking for cooler heads at the start of that race. We have seen dramatic changes both at the beginning of the race here in Sepang 2 years ago and at the very end of the race at Sepang in LMP3 just last year, where championship positions changed right at the death. Could it happen again?
Now, one of the questions I wanted to ask was that some of these drivers, I was saying just before you came to the commentary box, had never driven these Asian circuits before. You know these drivers, you know these teams, you've been in chats with them consistently. How have they been taking it so far in 3 races in?
They love it. They absolutely love coming to find something new. They love the challenges that the four tracks have actually chucked at them this year. And they've thoroughly enjoyed the four experiences that they've actually had thus far. What we're going to do right now is to pop down to the Algarve Pro racing team. They're right actually in the hunt, in a couple of the title hunts.
Very much
They
so.
are well, in terms of the mass, not quite there, but they'll be looking to pick up the pieces. They go down to Nadia, who's with Algarve Pro right now.
Yes, we are at Algarve Pro. We have Atadek de Jong with us. Nice to have you with us. Thank you for having us. Tell us who's going to get into the car for qualifying sessions.
Qualifying will be done by Andrea Pizzitola, and I'm very confident that he will put it on pole.
Right.
So I think he knows this track very well. 2 years ago he put it on pole with a slower car, so I'm very confident.
Right, that's a note there. So he was on pole here at the same track, but with a slower car.
Yeah, not with the Judd engine, with the Nissan engine. And I think with this track and like Shanghai, I think the Nissan is a little bit less powered than the Judd. So I think we're here in a little better shape than Buriram. Although we put it on pole in Buriram.
Yeah. And of course, then that means he's been here at the circuit before, used to the conditions, the weather, because we just interviewed 2 other drivers, and that seems to be the one thing on their minds.
Yeah, it seems to be here a little bit hotter than Buriram. Like if you do one stint, you're completely wasted. And I only have to do 1 stint, so I'm very happy. But Andrea and Harry have to do 2. And well, I start again, probably, most likely. And then the 2 guys have to finish it again. So hopefully the first place. Yeah.
Hopefully first place. You heard that. So that was Atadek de Jong. All the best for qualifying and the race tomorrow. Back to you guys.
Yeah, great to see Atta back into Asia Le Mans Series action at Buriram and a star of the race at the beginning there.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic defensive move that actually gained Algarve Pro Racing a 1-2 in the opening laps. We can see now the GT cars up on the stands, ready to get the tyres on to start the qualifying session. And the car you can see there, Jivan, that's one we were going to actually talk about.
That's
the number 11 car, the car guy Ferrari. Well, that's been the star of the show.
That's what I was talking about. I did actually say a little bit earlier that we might, for the first time ever in Asian Le Mans Series history, or at least recent history, see something very significant happening other than pole positions being set in qualifying, because we were talking about the permutations. We've had a little chat about LMP3. We've kind of touched on LMP2, but that yellow car that Graham was just talking about, it has won everything. It's won all 3 races. It hasn't got a complete sweep of all the poles, but it just needs 1 point from this qualifying session to actually be crowned the GT title. Not crowned, but to
pole position will do it. We'll talk about the blue car that's just disappearing out of shot right now. Here come the 2 green Audis. different looking
Yes.
Audis this time around.
Yes.
They've been refitted with the new Evo kit.
Let me
There we
guess,
go.
are they 2019 spec
They are
Audis?
2019
Graham?
spec
They look
Audis.
it. They look
so
it.
the work has been done there to the two Audis, the TSRT cars, now in full 2019 spec. That's a change since Buriram. So we've got stories all the way up and down this grid. We've got the two Audis in 2019 spec. We've got the two Ferraris battling for pole position, likely here, with probably the lead of the two Audis in the hands again of Dries van Teur. And we've got the Grande Dame, the old lady, the number 5 TF Sport with Red River Sports, Aston Martin V12 Vantage GT3. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be your last chance for a V12 engined Aston Martin race car in contemporary competition. There she is. This will be the last time that we know of we're going to see a V12 engine Aston Martin in a qualifying session in an international race.
I thought it was tears, but it's sweat.
Absolutely.
It's actually
They've
sweat.
done so by changing the engine in that car. The old lady woke up this morning with a bit of a cough, and the TF Sport boys have changed the V12 engine, 6-litre V12 in the car, not the one it woke up with this morning. Good luck to Red River Sports. It's Ivor Dunbar who will be taking the car out and getting some much needed extra track time here. I'm sure Bon Grimes is back at home and watching in with this one, but great to see that. Just a little bit of smoke as the engine beds itself in. There goes one of the two Audis.
Well, of course, Bon Grimes not part of the team he's got some personal commitments for this last weekend. And that also happened, of course, earlier on the season. Ivor Dunbar missed Shanghai. And then, of course, Johnny Molam also had that power steering problem that we saw earlier on spinning out. A lot of it's had a charmed life anyway in this season. But really, what a beautiful car. What a beautiful sound to it. And it's going to be missed.
It's great to have it here. We've got the V12 engine Aston Martin, 2 V10 engine Audis. That's the car just giving itself a little bit of space there. The number 66 car. Max Visa it will be that actually takes this car around for its qualifying session. I'm sure that's what Max is up to here. That is the GT AM version of the car. As you hear the shattering blast of the car coming through, that fantastic big spell slide just to launch itself back down the start-finish straight to start the first go at this. In comes the Aston Martin. They'll just be taking a few levels, I'm sure, to check that V12 has actually been installed correctly and properly. The levels are actually fine. Max Visa it is. He will put in the first flying lap then in the 66 car.
So now we've also got, of course, we haven't seen a shot of them yet. We saw them coming out of the pit lane. Spirit of Race. The 3 poles so far, by the way. Tianqi Racing Team, they're on your screens now, actually picked up the pole in Shanghai. Unfortunately, didn't finish the race there. Kargai picked up the home pole in Fuji. Of course, that is a Japanese team, literally a stone's throw away from the track. And then, of course, Spirit of Race came in, the number 51. And they are the only people that could mathematically change the outcome of this class. Kargai has done so unbelievably well over the first 3 races that it's going to need a DNF essentially from them.
It's going to come down to pole position here. James Collado, reigning world champion. That's fine. That's probably just installation. Don't worry too much about that little bit of smoke. They'll be taking a look at that one. Engine that's just been fitted, so not as much drama as that might seem to be, I don't think. So 2 world champions in the Ferraris, James Collado, and I'm sure it'll be Alessandro Pierguidi in the number 51 car. James pushing hard there in the very yellow car. We've got a Le Mans class champion in Dries van Teur returning to the team in the number 88 Audi for TSRT, and Max Visa, the stalwart competitor for that team.
Reliable.
Absolutely.
Well.
In the number 66 car, who has not been out of the running in terms of fast lap times either. They're going to be the 4 guys that are going to be up for the cup, as it were, and up for that point. But the one that will be looking to get it is Alessandro Pierguidi. Pushes absolutely to the limit and a little bit beyond there. So Alessandro Pierguidi, the most Italian man in Italy, without a shadow of a doubt, with the 2 Audis ahead of him on track. That is just looking there. That looks to me like Max Visa now running second of the 2. So Dries van Teur is ahead of him on track. Is he playing a little bit of rear gunner there?
I think it looks that way, yeah. They're definitely settling into their opening laps, starting their 3rd lap now. In fact, 2nd lap for a few of them. But actually looking at some of the timings that are coming in now, Tianqi Racing Team up with a 2:03.927. That's currently leading the pack.
So that is the time from Dries van Teur, of course, the younger of the 2 racing Van Teur brothers. His brother, ex-Audi factory driver. That's now Dries's birth. Now that he, of course, a Porsche factory driver, his brother Laurence, Larry. I'm sure you're listening, Larry, and watching. He's doing you proud at the moment. There. It's a 2:03.928. 927 rather, from the Tianxi Racing team, ahead of James Gallardo's best at 204, 227. These are the opening salvos, remember. Then the Spirit of Race car again in the 204s, they're traditional 1/10 of a second apart. Then a little way back, Max Visa, and TF Sports Aston Martin back out and on track now in the hands of Arvid Dunbar.
So the sun's still beating down here. It is, of course, it really is about opening salvos, as you said, because it's such a short window of just 15 minutes for these guys to get out there and put down their times. It is not uncommon, we've seen over the last couple of years especially, for a lot of these teams to sit back, get their cars warmed up, and go for the last 30 seconds, the last 50 seconds across the line, and that's it.
I can tell you the top three cars are all improving on this lap. Fast sectors for all three. Fastest of the lot at the moment is Alessandro Pierguidi. He's gone purple. That's the time, not Alessandro, although in this heat he might just as well be. So 53.6s and 53.7s, shaving tenths on that first sector. It's the longest sector of the track, just under a minute. Then we get into the two shorter sectors to complete the lap. And no improvement for two of those three cars. What can James Gallardo do? It's not huge differences between these cars. It's not going to take much of an improvement to see someone vaulting up the order. The man at the moment that looks most likely to do that is James Gallardo. He at the moment is exactly
flying, yeah.
0.3 of a second off the provisional pole time from Dries van Toor. He's going to want to fend that championship lead, that championship win, off just for another day, I'm sure, on behalf of his TSRT Audi teammates.
Well, it would be great for the Tianxi Racing team, obviously, and Spirit of Race if they could do that. It's their aim for sure. Spirit of Race has to do it. And for Car Guy, well, the pressure reverses against them in that they are currently, well, now I think they've just been moving up.
As they have, it's just a quick reshuffle. Tianxi Racing improved their time. It's a 2:03.811 now from Dries van Toor. It was an improvement as well from Alessandro Pierguidi, a 2:04.114. And then Car Guy in the hands of James Gallardo, another improvement, but not quite enough. Just under 0.2 of a second now is the gap between the Audi, number 88, the Ferrari, number 11. So is it going to be a second pole position for the Audi?
That would be amazing.
Is it going to be a championship winning pole position for Car Guy?
That would be unprecedented.
Absolutely. We've got half of the qualifying session left to see whether or not they can do that. 7.5 minutes are gone from the clock. 7.25 minutes now left. Is it going to be Dries van Toor? Is it going to be James Gallardo? Is it going to be Alessandro Pierguidi? It looks like it's a battle between the three of them. It is 0.3 of a second separate the top three.
And it's good to see that all three cars seem to be running without any problems. The weather, of course, nice and stable. I mean, I say stable, it's extremely high heat, but that is at least stable. That it can be different. It can actually get worse at Sepang if it started raining. And we've seen that happen before, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen now.
We've got a good look at the front end of this refettled Audi. This is in full 2019 spec now, with revised gearbox, revised aerodynamics, better cooling for this car.
Nice vent at the front as
absolutely.
well.
It is detail changes for this car, but it's made a fundamental difference in a number of ways. Tianxi Racing, by the way, this is a very quick lap indeed from Dries van Toor, and I think he's going to extend the advantage here, and I think he's going to do so by some distance. But he got himself all squirrely there.
Messed up turn 15, had a bad entry into that.
Yeah, but did he lose enough to make the two purple sectors
null and void? Well,
he didn't. He didn't.
2:03.697. Wow.
Yeah, he did lose time in that third sector, but he gained just over a tenth. But will he regret? It was a bit of a problem under braking. Outbraked himself rather into that final turn as the 51 car comes in and is going to get sticker tyres. There are going to be a new set of tyres on that 51 car. In comes the Car Guy Ferrari as well. They are changing tyres on both of these Ferraris, and they will go for glory in the dying moments of this qualifying session. Is it going to come down to the last seconds of the final qualifying session of the season to determine whether or not that car, the number 11 Car Guy Ferrari 488 GT3, in the hands at the moment of the world champion from the WEC, James Gallardo, can secure this plucky little Japanese team's ticket to Le Mans in June? That would be amazing.
Well, they have, of course, been very happy with the results coming out so far, and they're a great team as well. And let's see if they can do it. Of course, you know, with the way Dries van Toor is currently driving, you have to say that this is looking very good with 4 minutes left to go in the session for Tianxi to also put in another very fast lap. Let's see what the Ferraris can do.
Let's see that as both the Ferraris start to roll. I can tell you that Dries van Teur has gone quicker again in Sector 1. So purple, so the last 4 sectors have been 3 purple sectors and just that slight drop, if you like, in the final sector of the last lap. But Dries van Teur will be looking to hook it up again and do what he can to fend off what he knows is going to be a late session challenge. 4.5 minutes to go. A late session challenge from both these Ferraris.
Spirit of race, of course, with those 2 seconds and a third so far. Just pipped every time at every turn, literally, by a car guy.
It's going to be an interesting one, this one. There's a little bit of very friendly needle between the 2 factory drivers from Ferrari, Alessandro Pierguidi in this car, James Calado in the other. Remember, this is the pair that share the lead 51 car in the FIA World Endurance Championship. They are joint world champions, but competitors here. I can barely remember a session of any sort this season that this pair have been separated by more than a tenth or 2. It's been staggeringly close between the 2 of them. It is a further significant improvement, by the way, from the Tianchi Racing crew. It is Dries van Teur now with a 2:03.306. That means 0.6 of a second now has to be found, courtesy of the new Michelins at each corner of that number 11 Ferrari. So what can James Calado do? This is his out lap, his establishing lap. He'll be getting the heat into the tyres. That shouldn't be too difficult on a day like this.
Oh, no.
And then I think you're going to start to see some fireworks from both of these Ferraris.
And let's not forget, in Friday practice, it was Car Guy that came out on top with the times 2:04.365. That still wouldn't be enough to beat the newly refettled Audi, as you say.
So the number 88 Audi, the number 5 Aston Martin through the turn there, 22 cylinders in close formation, and happily they come out in close formation, albeit in the opposite formation, as Dries van Teur just deals with the traffic, gets the hammer down again, and I wonder whether or not that's him having done enough for this session. There's the mark, guys. You're going to have to go and chase it. And actually what has set them there is a pretty beefy challenge. Let's wait and see what response we'll see from either or both of those Ferraris. 2.5 minutes to go now as Dries van Teur comes round for the penultimate turn to complete the lap.
Now, of course, this number 88 Tianchi Racing Team Audi has, well, didn't finish in Shanghai, as I said. Picked up a 4th in Fuji in class and also a 3rd in Buriram. So it has been increasing, but of course that was before these 2019 upgrades. And
in
into the
comes
pits.
the provisional pole sitter. That will be session over for Dries van Teur. It's been an impressive one. 2:03.306, remember, is the mark now to be beaten. And both of the Audis have come in. Arthur Dunbar stays out with under 2 minutes to go in the session now. That will mean that it will be a one-shot deal for both of the Ferraris. So when they cross the line to start this lap, it will be all they can do. And
it's a great return from both Audis. 6 laps in for Dries van Teur, 2:03.306 and 2:04.743.
my apologies, it's 2 laps because they're actually already on a flying lap now. And indeed, we've seen an improved first sector time from James Calado. It's pretty close to that as well from the 51 car in the hands of Alessandro Pierguidi. Is it going to be enough, or are they going to have to go again on the hammer on those new tyres? They've got to want to do what they can to keep as much life in as many of these Michelins as they can. Remember, restricted the number of tyres they can use over a race weekend. We've got a minute on the clock. There's plenty of time for both of these Ferraris to complete this lap and go again. It is a quicker lap from James Calado, quicker than he's been before in Sector 1, quickest overall in Sector 2, and there's, barely a tenth and a half between the 2 sector times and James Calado's best time there. Up to second place on the timing and scoring goes the 51 car. What can James Calado do? I think he's quicker. Is he going to be quick enough? 2:03, he's not yet. It's a 2:03.3 from Dries van Teur, 2:03.5 from James Calado, 2:03.6 from Alessandro Pierguidi, but they've got this tour,
They've got one more lap.
To make it count and to close that gap. And I'm going to be watching these sector times like a hawk.
Well, what headlines this would be if it could be set on the last lap of qualifying. We've seen some last-ditch efforts in all the qualifying sessions this season and some really nail-biting finishes to each session, but this could pip even those.
Checkered flag is out. That means that it's these laps and no more for the 3 cars that remain on track. Ivor Dunbar will not trouble pole, but we're having a whale of a time in the final qualifying session ever for a V12-engined Aston Martin international competition that we know of. It is not an improvement in the first sector from Alessandro Pierguidi. Ivor Dunbar crosses the line. We wait and see. It is not an improvement either from James Collado. If they're going to do this, they're going to have to do it in the second half of the lap.
Literally
Collado
right
is still pushing. We can see that. Hard on the brakes. Hugs the apex. Powers out. Is he going to be able to do enough? I think we're going to know it in the next 30 seconds because his sector time in the middle sector here is going to be the telling one. Drifts out wide there. Pierguidi in the number 51 car. I think this is looking pretty good at the moment for the number 88 car, but are we going to have another twist in the tail of the season, or is this going to go to tomorrow, Jivan?
Wow.
And our car guy going to have to finish this race to complete their points tally as required to secure that championship.
Now, a little bit of, just as they come around the corner to finish this lap, just a little bit of news from race control. Car 11 and 8, that's Car Guy and Tianchi, will lead to scrutineering.
That's because they will be the top 2. Alessandro Pierguidi does not improve. It's a 2:03.8, and into the pits comes James Collado.
That's it.
It is pole position for Tianchi Racing Team, the number 88 car, and Dries van Tor. They will be correctly delighted with that. It is the first race in Southeast Asia for the 2019 spec Aston Martin Audi R8 LMS, the Evo version of that car, and into the bargain, it means that they push car guy into having to finish this race tomorrow to secure their championship.
And that is, of course, a psychological
It most certainly is. There's
ammo.
top management there from Audi in Asia. There are both of the Audis. The 88 car is the pole position car, the front of those two. It is the AM-Class 66 car, Max Visa, bringing that car home 4th position in that session, but a second off the quick cars at the top end of that, and that difference only came in the last moments of the session. There is young Dries van Tor. You can actually see that he's feeling a little bit the effects of the heat, but they will be correctly delighted with that. He'll be delighted with having to put his race suit back on for the photographs.
Well, they're looking very, very happy indeed. Now, who would have thought that of all these 5 entrants in the GT class, that it would be Tianchi Racing Team. But as you said, they have not been slacking in the time since Buriram. They've literally upgraded their cars. But is this down to the refettling of the Audi, or is this down to pure team momentum?
I think it's a combination of everything. They were quick, remember, here last year. They were very much in the mix in this race last year. Had late race problems with the gearbox. That's one of the changes for the 2019 spec car. They're delighted to be in that new spec car. You've got Dries van Tor has raced, I think, that 2019 spec car has had some development races over in Europe, as well as one in the Dubai 24 Hours. And Dries van Tor has driven more or less every single one of those races so far. So fantastic stuff from Dries van Tor. He's just put another tick in the box, which you must do as a factory-blessed driver. He'll, I'm sure, be getting a pat on the back from the Audi Sport Customer Racing guys. Let's wait and see how that one pans out. But great stuff. That means the wire gets moved back just a little further. We go really, truly down to the wire. Every single one of those titles goes to tomorrow and the 4 hours of Sepang.
And of course, we have to ask now into what's going on in the psychological part. I was just talking about it just now in Car Guy's head. 1 minute you had 15-minute session, which you've essentially done before earlier in the season, or a 4-hour race tomorrow with all the strategy and all the thinking that you have to do in that. How are they going to be feeling now?
Well, I think they'll be fine. I think that they've got this under control without a shadow of a doubt. They know they need to finish this race, but it does add further risk. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know, you and I have commentated on these races for the last 2 years. Unfeasible things happen in these circumstances. Let's hope not. That wouldn't be quite fine.
Absolutely.
Let's go down to pit lane now with Nadia, who's down with Tianchi Racing, and I'm sure she's got a very happy driver with her right now.
Yes, absolutely, but I'm not sure about him having to suit up again for this interview. Thank you so much for doing that. But of course, congratulations. Pole position. So how are you feeling?
Yeah, very well. I'm back. I missed in Buriram, so it's nice to come back like this. And but yeah, of course, it's still a long race tomorrow, 4 hours. So I mean, anything can happen. So it's a good starting position for us. But yeah, it will be a hot race. It's very hot here, so we'll see how it goes.
Yes, of course. And you were saying that you're back. You started the season in pole, if I'm not mistaken, and then now pole again. Put you in an Audi, and then you just go really fast, right? But I have to ask. So you were already here watching the other two car guys, Spirit of Race, hoping whether or not they, make that little gap. So what was going on in your head? Or were you confident? You got out of the car.
No, I mean the car has been handling well actually this weekend. So we're running the new kit. So it's good that now in Asia as well the kit is, or the new update Evo is running as well. Good for Audi.
Yeah.
So that's nice to see. But then the car has just been handling well. So I don't say it's an easy job then, but it just makes life that little bit easier. And very happy that we can be on pole. But the race is tomorrow, so let's see what we can do.
Of course, 4 hours tomorrow, and we'll see what unfolds. Dries Vanthoor, pole position for GT class.
Well, we've got one of the Bell brothers, Matt Bell and Rob Bell, famous racing brothers, of course, and we have a bit of a leg-pulling game with those two. So who's the youngest? Of course, it's Matt, and who's the quickest? We'll wait and see. And we're going to do the same with the Vanthoors. Larry, he's coming for you. Dries Vanthoor is racking up those wins. Who is going to be the quicker?
I think
the Vanthoor boys.
What was important was when Nadia actually asked him, he said, you turned up, you got a pole. You didn't turn up, you didn't get a pole, you're back, and you got another pole. I mean, it's
right.
Literally put him in an Audi and he does come up with something very fast. But what I really noticed in that qualifying session was the fact that both those Audis, 203.306 and 204.743, electric pace from both of them.
They like this circuit, there's no doubt. Last year, as we said, they were very quick indeed, both in qualifying and the races. We get the LMP cars now heading out towards pit out for their 15 minutes of fame here. But those Audis like this track. For whatever reason, it does suit them. And remember, they are significant differences in that car. It's to do with aerodynamics. It's to do with that cooling, which is vitally important here.
Yeah.
And that car is a more drivable, more raceable proposition now. And you could see he was a very happy boy to actually have that here. And it's great that he's developing his career as an Audi hot shoe factory driver alongside a program where you're seeing development. It's great to see it. He's a star now. He's going to be a superstar in the future. There's no doubt in my mind at all. And at the moment, let's see, he's doing it with Audi. Let's see whether or not that continues or whether or not he catches the eye elsewhere.
So let's have a look back at the first half of this qualifying session. The GT's just completed before we get to LMP2 and LMP3. Out
came the 5 cars, start of the 15-minute session. The Audis ahead of the Ferraris. Car guy looking for that single point that would have secured them the championship here today. 51 car in the hands of Alessandro Pierguidi was pushing hard. When it came right down to it, I'm afraid neither of the Ferraris quite had the pace to secure the single point. James Calado bowing out. The number 88 car in the hands of Dries Vanthoor, though, would take pole position, the second of the year, in the first appearance in Southeast Asia for the 2019 spec of the Audi R8 LMS. Great stuff.
And, of course, what we do have to still see for that new 2019 spec car is reliability. We've seen the Tianchi Racing team have some reliability problems. I remember Zhuhai beforehand as well. But we've seen them going very fast. We've seen them have the drivers do it well. Let's see what they can do tomorrow.
But that's the reason for the change in that gearbox. That has been a weak part in that package. That's something that the teams have told us all around the world about this, and they're delighted with that change. We saw pretty good reliability at Daytona with that gearbox. Now we're going to see some of the most reliable packages in motorsport. These are some of the LMP3 cars. The number 2 car there, the United Autosports car, still in the championship hunt.
Yes,
of course,
in it to win it, in fact.
And we're going to have a rather more crowded track this time around with the LMP2s and LMP3 cars out on track together. 17 cars.
That's right. When you said that, this is what we've had some great numbers coming in, as you can just see them all piled up in the pit lane there. 17, 7 in LMP2, 10 cars in LMP3. One of the biggest fields we've had, and being the closest field in terms of competition from all these 4 classes, a lot of action, a lot of headlines could be coming, not just from this qualifying session, but of course from the race tomorrow as well.
United Autosports, either of their cars looking for that single point. Into Europol would like it as well, just to stretch the advantage just a little. Then when we get into the LMP2 stakes, it is going to be about whether or not the lead United Autosports car, the 22 car, can push their gap a little bit further, or are they going to be under a little bit more pressure again? Remember, this is about race win. Here goes the green. And a stall from the lead United Autosports
Well,
car.
that's
the 23
the
car.
wrong car to have stalling.
Just coughed a little there. That's the 23 car. All fine. But it is going to be about a race win for very many of these teams. It's going to be about a championship win for these teams. And that championship win comes with one of the biggest prizes in world motorsport, an automatic entry to the biggest race in the world,
That's
the Le
right.
Mans 24 Hours in June. One of the most fantastic spectacles in world motorsport, in world sport. Frankly.
Exactly,
A fantastic event.
exactly.
Where these cars, or cars very like them, certainly some of these teams will be racing in front of 250,000 people live and countless millions on television worldwide. That's the prize that's up for grabs for the guys battling away for pole position here today.
It's true, the broadcast audiences, not just for the Asian Le Mans series, but of course all of Le Mans have just been absolutely getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year. This broadcast that you're watching now, wherever you are in the world, is one of the biggest that we've seen, especially over 1 million viewers for each of these events that have turned up. Now, getting into some of the stories from LMP3 and LMP2, because there have been a lot of updates, shall we say, since Buriram. We've had a couple of cars re-entering for a start. We've had a couple of new cars, in fact. Let's talk about R24 first of all. New team lineup for all of them.
Completely new lineup for that squad.
With a superstar in there as well.
Absolutely. 3 very interesting drivers. Catherine Legg, one of the most accomplished female drivers in world motorsport, comes on the back of having won in the support race for Formula E last weekend, and also in stellar form in the IMSA Championship in a GT3 car. She's here in the LMP3 car with
quietly
Margot Lafitte.
winning the Formula
Absolutely.
E.
Margot Lafitte, daughter of the F1 legend Jacques Lafitte,
Great
and
track.
also Michel Gatting. We'll be seeing Michel for a full season in the European Le Mans Series in a GT car. And some more news about Michel, I believe, in the coming days as well. So fantastic stuff to see that taking another step forward with backing from Richard Mille. And that's that.
Well, how about that? Now, if that's is that Nigel Moore? It should be Nigel Moore
going way wide there. Was he trying to get out of the way of the P2 car? I think he probably was, and rather overdid it there.
I can tell you, Viper Nisa Racing, the home team, of course, here at Sepang, the Malaysian-owned team, have had a very interesting weekend, as they usually do.
Absolutely.
And whether Nigel on the inside more, as we're calling him now, after 2 absolutely blistering moves that he's made. I think it was in Shanghai and in Fuji, where he literally started fighting with the LMP2.
I think he did it all 3 races, actually. He did it at turn 4 at Buriram. But I think that was Nigel trying to be a gentleman and actually, unfortunately, giving himself a problem.
Possibly,
Let's wait and see.
he was going on the inside and then realised he was actually
Absolutely
off track.
right. But
It's too
he
inside
put
for him.
himself off track. But there he is, hanging on to the back of the LMP2 car ahead. That is the 23 car with Patrick Byrne at the wheel for this final race of the season. Remember, last year's LMP3 champion, Patrick Byrne.
That's right.
That was one of the last gaffe dramas we were talking about a little earlier in the show. Already 3 minutes into this session, and already these teams onto their first flying laps. So
now, as you can see, Philip Hansen, we're just looking at the time so far, looking at the early sectors. Of course, they're still yet to complete their full laps.
it's Andrea Pizzitolo at the
Andrea
moment is
Pizzitolo,
looking
yeah.
quickest. Purple's first sector
Reigning
there for that
ELMS.
team. But remember, LMP2 AM and LMP3 points are going to be up for grabs tomorrow in those championship fights, but it's going to be a point apiece for LMP2 and LMP3 here. And
Well,
they
I
are going to
think-
be fiercely fought.
I think this is actually one of the fastest cars, the Kyrgios Nielsen, that we saw earlier on in practice. It was Colin Noble that came through with a 1:59.605. Surprised?
Colin, no, not at all. Colin has been a massive rising star in the European Le Mans Series and the Michelin Le Mans Cup, winning races at the international level for the first time this year. He's a 2-time UK LMP3 champion, and we're getting regular podiums in the European Le Mans Series in LMP3 as well with this Kyrgios Nielsen squad. Already announced that they're going back for another crack at the European Le Mans Series. I wouldn't be remotely surprised to see them considering coming back to Asia in the winter again. It's been impressive stuff. It's again showing the opportunities, not just for these teams to actually have a commercial avenue in Asia, but also to progress some of their customers, to progress some of their young professionals. It's track time in competitive cars, in great racing on great circuits, and everybody has been having a ball in Asia this winter.
Now, there you just see the 24 APR Golf Pro Racing car. That should be Andrea Pizzitola, and then he should have just gone up. He has, in fact, gone up to the top of the timings sheets.
So quick times coming in already, you're quite right. It is Andrea Pizzitola tops the times at 1:56.369 for the number 24 Algarve Pro Racing team. We heard from Matilda de Jong earlier that he expected the judge to be quick here. He's right, 156.3. Second quickest, 156.7 is the number 8 car in the hands of Pipo Derani. Phil Hansen going very quickly at the moment. Third quickest at 157.3. There's time to come there in the LMP3 stakes. It is Wayne Boyd in the number 2 United Autosports car, 2 minutes, 0.662, a full half second up on Nigel Moore. Then Christian Olsen is the pace setter of the 2 Courier Cost cars at the moment, because the second car has not left pit lane.
Yes, that's right.
It's Christian Olsen's car that's out there, not Colin Noble's car. So Christian Olsen currently third quickest. So 2 minutes, 0.662, but Christian Olsen is, well, around a tenth of a second back from Nigel Moore. So wait and see how that one goes. Phil Hansen looks to be the man that's going to be improving next. I think that will shoot him to the top of timing and scoring with the number 22 United Autosports car. We've got 9 minutes left, and already this is beginning.
It's beginning to shape up. Now, one other notable absentee who's never left the pit lane is the LMP2 AM APR Algarve Pro Racing team. That's also out of class. It's logged as non-starter. That is, of course, the number 25 Mark Patterson, Anders Fjordback, Christopher McMurray car. In
comes Viper Nisa and one of the United Autosports cars. That will be, I'm sure, the 23 of Patrick Byrne. It is Phil Hansen that goes to the top, 156.052. Wow. That secures provisional pole despite a big push there from Pipo Derani, just over a tenth back. For the 2 tenths back now is Andrea Pizzitola. He didn't improve his time last time around. One quicker sector, but 2 that didn't. Then Darren Burke, fourth quickest in the Algarve, sorry, the Algarve Bratislava car, the car, of course, that leads the LMP2 AM Championship. It's still Wayne Boyd, Nigel Moore, Christian Olsen, the 1, 2, 3, and we're still waiting to see the introduction into proceedings from the 79 Courier Cost Nielsen car. What has happened there?
And now, just to put this all in perspective, of course, Friday practice, we told you it was car guy in GT, Colin Noble in LMP3. LMP2, it was the returning Spirit of Race car. Pipo Derani, of course, we know how fast he can get in qualifying. He laid down a 154.585, which would, if he repeated that lap today, get him on pole position. Currently, as Graham said, 156.052 is ruling the roost, and it's young Philip Hansen that has it.
We've got as well, as we watch the tyre change here for the number 2 car. This is provisional pole position car in LMP3. As I'm watching Andrea Pizzitola at the moment, looking very likely indeed to grab provisional pole position. We'll keep an eye on that. Remember, we've got one car reintroduced this season to Championship, number 38 Jackie Chan DC Racing.
That's right, good to see that back.
Car. And another car reintroduced after 2 years away, and that is the RC Bratislava Ginetta.
Yes, the only Ginetta in the field, in fact.
And as the 35 Panis Barthez car comes out, that is the little Ginetta, the number 44 car, in the hands of Mike Simpson.
That's good
through to 918.
Good to see that.
Now, that car loses a little through the turns, but is much, much quicker than the Ligiers in a straight line.
Wow.
Somewhere between 3 and 5 kilometres an hour quicker. There is the number 7 car in the hands of Christian Olsen. He goes second, 2 minutes, 0.843, just 2 tenths of a second off pole. Could this be a breakthrough result for the young Dane? Up to the top of timing and scoring is a wild moment there for Christian, pushing a little too hard. Goes Andrea Pizzitola. It's a 155.482. It's now an Algarve Pro 1-2 though.
Wow.
As Anders Fjordback goes through with a 155.840. So from nowhere, you know what?
Literally nowhere.
Ati de Jong was right. Judd's 1-2. 155.4, 155.8. Then we've got a 156.0 with number 22 car Phil Hansen currently in pit lane to get some new boots on each corner for that car.
Well, I know that you are constantly telling me about the engine battle that's happening, the powertrain battle that's happening between Judd and this end, and a double Judd up top. But really, how significant is this in LMP2 to have both Algarve Pro racing cars up at the front of the grid right now? Don't forget, Algarve Pro did not finish. Andrea Pizzitola ground to a halt on the home straight in Shanghai while leading. And that 25 points could have really shifted everything here, because they are, of course, running second. United Autosports on 62 points, Algarve Pro on 44 points. Imagine now how different it would have been had they picked up the 25 points there. But they did come back strong in Fuji, a second in Buriram as well, and now a 1-2 in qualifying. It looks like the Cox couple, I should say.
Absolutely.
They definitely have.
Seventh shoe.
Yep, they are in it to win it for sure this weekend. How important this could be?
A big lock up there from the 36 car. He did get around there safely. but it is more purple sectors from both the leading cars at the moment. Andrea Pizzitolo in the final sector. He's going to cross the line from 155.482 to 155.407, shaves almost another tenth. Through as well goes Anders Fjordbak. Not an improvement there, but he did go through the middle sector the fastest of the lot. There's more to come from these two Ligier Judds from Algarve Pro Racing. Another team, by the way, that's looking for 2 entries for the Le Mans 24 Hours come March the 1st. And they'd love to win one here and for United Autosports to go away
It would be
with cripplingly
fantastic.
bad luck.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look likely on the maths, but on the pace, well, they can do all they can do, which is to go out there and try and win this race, and they're certainly trying to do that right now.
Well, it would be a great story, of course. A couple of years back, it was one of these last-ditch championship-changing moments, included Algarve Pro Racing, and they had to actually concede the championship to Jackie Chan DC Racing. Wouldn't it be just absolutely full circle if they could come back and do the same thing in reverse?
It would be astonishing.
This weekend? It would be unbelievable.
Absolutely astonishing. Here is the 23 car. This is the LMP2 AM contender from United Autosports. And that car now in the hands of Guy Cosmos. They have changed drivers during the session.
Had a bit of trouble in free practice.
They did indeed. They've had engine troubles through the weekend, I'm afraid. Changed just about everything on the engine you can. But so the car seems to be running well now. There is the Spirit of Race car returning, and there is our provisional pole sitter until just a moment ago, because Nigel Moore has now gone to the top of Tomming and scoring in LMP3.
Well.
So the number 2 car that looked like it might shave a point out of the advantage of the Inter-Europol car has just lost that opportunity, because it's a chunk taken from it, 0.7 of a second to the good. Meantime, car 25 in the hands of Anders Fjordbak gets a slap on the wrist from race control, loses the lap he is on at the moment, so it will be no further improvement on this lap at least from Anders Fjordbak. He sits with a 155.733, good enough for the front row at the moment. He'll keep that lap. In fact, my apologies, he's not, because that's Mathieu Lehay who's just gone second.
Well, we're actually
it's
looking
now
at
a
him.
Judd 1, 2, 3, so it is all Judd. Bad news for Attila de Jong is his car
Yeah.
hasn't got the team car alongside it
Well,
now.
I don't know if anyone was expecting the PBC car to actually be performing that fast and be up at the top. It has been there and thereabouts.
Make no mistake, Mathieu Lehay is an accomplished LMP driver, a quick man indeed, and he'll have taken some time to get used to this package, or re-used to this package, but he is flying right now. Can he trouble pole position?
Well, we've already had one
headline.
headline.
That might be something of a story here. 24 in the hands of Andrea Pizzitola. We've got just 2 minutes remaining on the clock, as all of a sudden Pipo Derani decides he's going to throw his hat in the ring.
I was expecting something to come from Pipo in this last minute.
Well, he's only 5th quickest at the moment, but he's gone through quicker than he's been before in the first sector.
Great sector
quicker
too
than
as well.
ever than anybody in the second sector, as the yardstick is moved by Phil Hansen, goes to the top, 155.370. So all of a sudden the championship leader decides to throw their hat in the ring here. What's going to happen with Pipo Derani? He can do no better than third. That's 155.3 now for Hansen, 155.4 from Pizzitola, 155.4 from Pipo Derani, 155.7 from Mathieu Lehay, 155.8 from Anders Fjordbak. The top 5 cars separated by just half a second.
But
this
remember,
is a magnificent qualifying session.
Pipo did come up with a 154 yesterday.
Absolutely.
So we can do it again.
So Viper Lisa Racing in a solid pole position now in LMP3 with Nigel Moore. Wayne Boyd has shaved the gap back to second, but not enough to trouble this at the moment. We'll keep an eye on his sector times.
A little bit wide there.
Phil Hansen, by the way, is going quicker again on this lap, but so too Anders Fjordbak. Oh, Anders Fjordbak.
He seems to be, no, he's back on now. Now that car, as we said, the number 25 LMP2 AM APR was actually sitting in the pits for the first bit of this session, but it came out blind. That's Douglas Koo in the Viper Nisa Racing team. He's looking eagerly at the screens to see if he's going to be picking up a second pole position this season, because, of course, they did famously pick up the pole for LMP3 in Fuji as well. This would be a great season for them.
This is going to be the moments that count. 27 seconds to go. We've got Philip Hansen battering on to complete this lap and try to extend his advantage. He doesn't do so, but he gets around to try again. Pipo Derani, meanwhile, is very fast indeed on this lap. He goes through in just about 30 seconds' time. Andrea Pizzitola now improves. Both those cars under 50 seconds in the first sector. This is going to happen beyond the checkered flag coming out. It's going to be the very last lap. This is going to be Pipo Derani's last chance. Is he going to make further up? Is that going to put him on the front row or even to pole? Crosses the line now.
Wow.
He goes to pole with 1:55.167. Now it's on. Now what we're going to see from Andrea Pizzitola and Philip Hansen, because this is where we see whether Spirit of Race that are not in the championship hunt can just nick that point and make it just a little bit more difficult for the 22 car. Andrea Pizzitola looks like he's going very quickly, but not quite quickly enough, I don't think, to grab pole position here. Philip Hansen is doing all he can. He's just hundredths down in sector time in the first sector to the time of Pipo Derani. He's got, frankly, a minute here on track to do what he can to grab the point that will make their task just that little bit easier. We're waiting for Algar Pro to cross the line. They do not improve, just a couple of hundredths off their best time. They'll do no better than third position. It's going to be about whether Philip Hansen in the last two sectors of his final qualifying lap of the season can do anything about the searing pace of Pipo Derani, and I think he can't. I think he's lost a tenth there. He ran wide there coming through the
penultimate turn. He ran wide a little bit earlier as well.
And I think it's going to be Pipo Derani in the number 8 Spirit of Race car that's going to be the pole position sitter for the season finale, and they're going to have to go again to get the points tomorrow for the LMP2 and the overall championship hunt. Nigel Moore looks untroubled in LMP3. Here comes Philip Hansen to cross the line. 1:55.370. He does improve, but he doesn't do quite enough. That was a great final lap. A 1:55.222 plays a 1:55.167. 600ths of a second is all that separates those two. Absolutely fantastic stuff.
Now that really is an amazing qualifying session, as Graham pointed out. And so what can we say? We've basically seen three classes with three complete. I didn't expect any. I really expected a big. Well, we can talk about that in a second.
Just got to actually point out, by the way, he's lost that lap, Philip Hansen, to track limits. That was them going wide in the penultimate turn, I think, as well as an infraction earlier. It doesn't matter. He keeps second position. It will be Spirit of Race on pole position. Pipo Derani putting the car around in a 1:55.167. Alongside him, championship leader Philip Hansen in the 22 United Autosports Ligier. The Nissan cars do get to pole and second. Then it's three jug cars in a row. Andrea Pizzitola, Mathieu Lehay, Anders Fjordbach, 24 from 35 and 25. Guy Cosmo and Darren Burke complete the order with the two remaining LMP2 AM cars. In LMP3, it is going to be Nigel Moore from Wayne Boyd. 1:59.906 from 2 minutes, .022, with Christian Olsen, a championship best for him, third. Excellent qualifying session in both classes. Some fantastic fast laps from the two pole position setting cars. Pipo Derani, fantastic lap. Excellent try there from both Phil Hansen and Andrea Pizzitola, and another stellar performance from Nigel Moore on the home track for Viper Nisa Racing. That'll be headlines tonight.
I think that essentially, however Viper Nisa actually performs in the race tomorrow, that's already made a headline, as you said. We've got all sorts of things that have happened for Viper Nisa over the season anyway, but to get that pole in the Malaysian leg, that's going to mean a lot to Douglas.
Well, it's going to give him the best opportunity he possibly can to do what, Jivan? Go down the inside.
Go down the inside, exactly.
Tomorrow. But that, 15-minute qualifying sessions, sometimes people think these things are a little bit too short for an endurance race.
It's a shootout, essentially.
But it's exactly that. It's the endurance racing version of a barroom brawl. Who's going to be the last man standing? And that was a great 15 minutes in the LMPs. And you know what? A great 15 minutes for TSRT and for Audi and for Dries van Tour and for the championship, because it does mean that the GT battle as well goes into tomorrow. Fantastic stuff.
And of course, with the total half an hour, we've seen some really shocking results. I mean, I have to say shocking, because of course, Spirit of Race, they couldn't turn up at Buriram. There were some commitments for the team that essentially meant that they were out of contention for the title. But they came back here, as you said, to prove a point.
Absolutely. Pipo Derani out of the car. He's looking pleased.
Very fast in the last 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Of any
Finger held
session.
aloft. That's number one for pole position. The international language of I beat the rest. And he'll be very pleased with that. He's a very modest young man, young Brazilian. world-class sports
Absolutely
car
world-class,
driver,
yeah.
without a
Very,
shadow of
very
a doubt.
fast, very fast.
And that is your overall order, with the number 8 from the 22. Peter Durrani doing it right at the death again. Andrea Pizzitola looked like he had that one made, but was finally bettered by the championship leader, Phil Hansen, and then Peter Durrani making it an unhappy evening, at least, for the United Autosports team. Great stuff. Thoroughly enjoyed both those qualifying sessions. And, you know, we got more of the same tomorrow, but over 4 hours.
That's right. Now, as we see them, of course, in Parc Fermé, getting their cars through the usual scrutineering, we will be talking to the leaders from the pole sitters from each of these classes in just a minute. Just before we get to there, let's just have a chat about some of the other teams that we kind of saw there, but we didn't. Did you expect more from ARC Bratislava, perhaps Darren Burke, Lin Kang?
They've had some problems with their gearbox. It'd be interesting to see whether or not that's recurred, because they were certainly nowhere in that hunt. They're not that far off that there's a major problem, but they might just be taking it easy on the mechanicals. They've got a job to do tomorrow. They're going to want to finish this championship, finish this race, and take the Slovakian team to Le Mans. That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
It's about Miro Konopka and his dream to take the Slovakian team back to Le Mans, and that would be a great story.
There aren't very many invites to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. 60, in fact, and 42 of them, have already been given
42
out?
of the 60, 18 more
left.
to come. 4 of them will be settled tomorrow. The endurance racing world is watching. So we'll wait and see what actually happens tomorrow in terms of the championship positions after 4 hours tomorrow. Before that, though, we're going to get to speak, I hope, to both of the pole position sitters. And I think the first of those is going to be the LMP3 pole position sitter, Vipanisa Racing for Malaysia. Nigel Moore, not for Malaysia, but delighted to be part of that. Down with Nadia in pit lane right now.
Yes, we have Nigel Moore with us, pole position for LMP3. It's your second pole already. How are you feeling?
Yeah, no, feeling good. We've always shown that we've got a quick car. It wasn't, the conditions out there weren't what we expected during qualifying, but I think, speaking to a few others, they found the same. So we went for the second set of tyres. We got a decent time in it, wasn't the best, but it was good enough for pole. So, no, really happy. The guys have done a mega job. This is their home track, so it's nice to show what pace we've got when we want.
Exactly, home track, because Malaysian team. I'm sure Douglas is really happy in the garage right now. Tomorrow, the race. How are you guys going to be tackling that?
Yeah, the race is going to be tough for us. Douglas did a TCR race earlier, and it unfortunately didn't go the way he wanted, but it is quite warm. We'll have to plan it and see what he's like and how he feels. If we get a decent result, top 10 something would be really, really nice. But to be honest, just to be out and finish would be a good one for the last season.
There you have it from the man who made pole position for P3. Back to the studio.
Well, that's what we were saying. I think basically any success up here on home soil is going to be good for Vipanisa.
I remember already an LMP3 champion in the Asian Le Mans Series just a couple of seasons ago.
That's right.
Oddly enough, with Philip Hansen, who stands to win another championship tomorrow if things go their way. That was a thrilling half hour of qualifying action. A great race for endurance racing.
Let's have a look back now at the entire session. 30 minutes so far. Lots of headlines in there. Lots of stories. Let's have a look.
First 5 cars out on track were the 5 cars in GT. 15 minutes of GT qualifying action. 2 Audis, 2 Ferraris, and the final appearance in international competition of the V12 Aston Martin. Car Guy needed just the point, the number 11 car, to seal the championship for pole position. 51 Spirit of Race car, trying to take that point from them. James Collado pushed as hard as he dared, but had to bail it out at the end because of the efforts of this man, young Dries van Teur, in the now 2019 spec Audi from TSRT. He would do more than enough to secure the pole position and the point for pole. Out came the number 7, the 17 LMP cars, 10 LMP3s, 7 LMP2s for what was a gripping contest out on track. 22 car of Philip Hansen, one of the early pace setters. But then what we saw is the number 2 car with Wayne Boyd went to the top in LMP3 for United Autosports. Again, a car in championship contention, Vipanisa Racing. And then the number 7 car of Christian Olsen, also in the mix. But it was Nigel Moore in the Vipanisa Racing car that did all he possibly could. And that was more than good enough to put the local team on pole. 24 car in the hands of Andrea Pizzitola took the Judd engine car to the top, and at one point it was a Judd 1, 2, 3. Algar Pro and Panis Bartes holding those positions, but it was then first Philip Hansen popping up on top with a 1:55.370 that sent the jug cars back to the pits unlucky. It looked as if that might be enough, but keep an eye on the timing screens, and what you'd have actually seen was that there was someone else creeping up there, and that car was number 8 from Pipo Derani, the Spirit of Race car. Number 8 was the pole position car after 15 minutes of Sepang.
So far, so good then for United Autosports. Of course, don't forget that they are gunning for 3 possible invites, one in LMP2, LMP2 AM, and of course in LMP3 as well. They're going to be one of the teams to look out for, of course, but who knows what Spirit of Race can do. Let's find out what their strategy is. Pipo Derani is down with Nadia in the pit lane right now.
What a way to make a comeback. I was telling people because we were missing you and your whole team from the last round, and now you're back taking pole position. We want to hear what you have to say.
No, it's good to be back. Unfortunately, we had to miss the last round, but yeah, we're here in Malaysia, enjoying a little bit the weather. It's hot out there, and yes, what a way to come back. We've been working hard, and the team Spirit of Race gave me a good car today. Managed to put it on pole at the end of quali, but. Yeah, we did it, so happy with that. It's going to be a tough race because it's really, really warm, and yeah, but good way to start the weekend, definitely.
And I mean, we have to talk a bit about the championship. It is the last round, so you guys are here to shake things up a bit, I guess?
Well, we really don't care if we shake things up. We are here to win and do our best, and also have fun. I think for Alex, getting himself better in the prototype every race, and it's important to have this race before he thinks what he's going to do next year. So yeah, here we are. We're going to try to do our best, obviously try to win. It's not easy because of how the lineups are, but hey, it's 4 hours. It's enough time. We saw what happened at Shanghai, so we're going to give our best, that's for sure.
Exactly. So looking forward for the race tomorrow, and you at the start of that. Great congratulations once again. Back to the studio.
Well, there you have it. Thanks, Nadia. Speaking to Pipo Derani, and young man, as you said, very fast driver as well, but level head on that shoulders, and he also knows what's in store tomorrow. He may know he's very fast in a straight line in a very short space of time, but he's also knows what to do in terms of team dynamics.
He does. He's won some very big races in cars very like this in the United States and in the World Endurance Championship, and I think he's enjoying his time in the Asian Le Mans Series. Alexander West, who's the gentleman driver there, made it very clear he wants to go to Le Mans, and he wants to do it in a prototype. He's learning his way here in Asia, and what he's going to be able to kind of suck up from the 2 pro drivers alongside him is going to be invaluable as he makes his way forward in his own racing career. What it all sets up, though, tomorrow is a really intriguing start to this race. We've got some quick guys up the front. We've got some quick guys in the mix. We've got some other guys who are going to be looking to make some progress. They are Bratislava. We need to find out what happened as well to that 79 Ikuriakos Nielsen car that did not feature in qualifying.
So really, when it comes down to it, plenty of stories and headlines that we're going to be looking forward to getting together and telling you about tomorrow when we start. It's going to be from noon to 4 p.m., so don't forget about that. And right now, from the commentary box, well, we'll join you tomorrow for what should be an absolutely fantastic 4 hours of Sepang. Right now, it's down to Nadia.
You're exactly right, Jeevan, and that was it. Qualifying sessions was a blaze, and that was just a little bit of what we can expect for tomorrow's race day, the finale here at 4 hours of Sepang. So brace yourself for some nail-biting action and for some fierce battle, because all 4 championships are still up for grabs. So you can expect a really good race tomorrow. So be sure you join us live broadcast at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow for race day, and you don't want to miss any second of that. So thank you so much for watching. We'll be seeing you again tomorrow. I'm Nadia Nash. See ya.